Hi, this is Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Thanking you for checking out this series, this trauma and healing series brought to you by Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative. Well, Patrick, I have never been happier to turn a page in a story because we're past the worst of your story. So we get to talk about a little bit chapters in your life that were, I started to say a little more optimistic, quite a bit more optimistic. You wound up leaving your mother's house. You moved in with your aunt in California, and you flourished in school, from what I understand. You had a particular teacher that played a really solid role in your life. Talk about that teacher for the Brother Be Well audience.
She is a special lady. Um, like I mentioned earlier, I always have really good luck with older lady. I think it's my puppy eyes where, the older lady just take pity on me, and once they hear the heartbreaking story that that is my life, um, they just they women have these nurturing instinct as mothers, whether they have children or not. They just born with those natural mother instinct, and they want to nurture a wounded soul, and that's what Mrs. Mayer did. So I call her mom now, but I used to call her Mrs. Mayer for many years. She
Wow.
was my first ESL teacher when I arrived here in California. I was living with my mom in Pennsylvania for about 2 years, and then I left abruptly right after because of everything that went down. Um, and when I met Miss Mayer, I thought to myself, this woman is so fake. There is nobody this nice in this world. And she's just a saint. I mean, we have very troubling students as any high school would. And Cordova High was the school where we met, the high school where we met. It's in a rough neighborhood, I have to say. So there is a mixture of students where some of them are more problematic than others. And Mrs. Mayer treat everybody with kindness, and
Mm,
she always give them the benefit of the doubt, even
mm,
though what they do is just blatantly wrong
mm,
and disrespectful to her and to
mm,
other students.
mm,
Um, this woman just she just took me under her wing. She's later on when we become closer, I asked her, why did you decide to nurture me? And she said, she just saw something special in me. And she realized that, this kid has potential and he just need a little bit of help. He just need a tiny little bit of wind under his wings and he will soar,
wow.
and so I did. So with a lot of help along the way, of course. But over the years, she went from an ESL teacher to a very close confidant, um, and later on become my mom. I
Wow.
cannot recall the moment when I start calling her mom, but she just took me under her wing and let her entire family treat me as one of their own. Um, we recently lost my dad, John Seal Mayer. He is a wonderful human being, but he's unfortunately no longer with us. Um, but he was also a instrumental part of my life as well.
Wow, you absolutely you read my mind. I was going to ask you before we wrap up today. I was hoping and praying that you were still in touch with her because the way you
Yes.
talk about her and the way you wrote about her, it was just so moving to me. So it's great to hear you're still in touch with her. Um, talking about a little bit, I want you to touch on your Prince story talked about escalating tensions with your aunt. I mean, that seems to be a
Mhm.
pattern. You know, you had a mother who, um, these microaggressions to kind of get you to move out. Living with your aunt, there was some escalating tension. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So right after I moved out of my mom's place, I moved from Pennsylvania to California to live with my aunt. And I have two aunts here. One live in LA and one live in Sacramento. Um, and the one live in LA has two little girls. So originally, when I was trying to assess the situation and see where I want to live, which environment would be beneficial to me, I decided that the one who lived in LA just not a good fit because she has two little girls, and be I would feel uncomfortable living there, even
Hmm.
though I already identify myself at that point as a gay man.
Hmm.
Now the one that lives in Sacramento, she has two boys, and one of them is a bit closer to my age, and we actually quite a close relationship. I think of him as a brother,
Hmm.
and he lives with my aunt in Sacramento. So I decide Sacramento it is.
That's great.
Um, and it was the first year was quite nice and uneventful. Um, I go to school. I went to school. I come home. I do my homework and hang out with the family. It was quite nice. But I think as times go on, there was a lot of financial conflict because I started to work at McDonald's. My first job, I work at McDonald's because as a 17 years old boy who didn't speak English, who just arrived to the US, that's the only job I could get.
Uh,
So I work at McDonald's and I was bringing home a little bit of money. And I think the escalating tension was that, my aunt think that thought that I did not contribute to the household, even though I was giving her a little bit of my money. She thought I wasn't doing enough chores and wasn't helping out the family enough, even though, I was going to school full time as a high schooler, and they did not count for any of my credit from Vietnam. So I basically completed the 4 years high school program here in the US in 2 years.
wow.
So, it's quite an quite an accelerated program. Um, on top of that, I was working 20, 30 hours a week at McDonald's
Wow.
um, at the age of, 17, 18. And by the time I get home, I smell like French fries and I'm exhausted. And I
Right.
still have homework to do. Um, and, for her to expect me to help out and do all these things, not just regular like household chore like vacuum, she would expect me to like take her to appointments or, you know, like run errands for her, and I just cannot
Couldn't do it, sure.
because yeah, I had a plate, I have a full plate as it is. So at one point where we were having discussion, it got very heated, and she said, "Well, if you don't want to live here, you can leave." And I left, because I was under a lot of stress already, and I didn't need any additional discomfort coming from her.
Wow.